Midwest Gaming Classic 2022. Are we still going strong?
Are we gonna make it?
You're not ready to pack it in yet? No, I love that enthusiasm. Wow. All right. We are Hair of the Dogcast, and we are here broadcasting from the bonus stage at Midwest Gaming Classic. This is brought to you by Hair of the Dogcast and Premium Edition Games. And boy, we have snagged a local and worldwide celebrity for this panel. Oh my gosh, I've been trying to land him for years. Last year. We tried to get you last year. And I think you
Really?
I think you big timed us, but it's okay. It's okay. We won't hold it against
sorry
you.
about that. I don't remember, actually.
It's all right.
It feels like a million years ago, even though it was 6 months.
It was literally 5 months ago, Ben. It's fine.
Yeah.
We have
Ben Hollywood Heck.
Yes, Ben Heckendorn. Welcome to the Dogcast stage.
Thank you for having me.
All right. So we're not going to talk about console modding. I mean, not that you know a lot about that, but...
well, your previous guest was talking about it in great detail, so we could probably move on to other subjects.
Sure. But did you do any panels today about said topic?
No, I did not. I did a workshop yesterday, in which case we talked about doing surface mount soldering, so people could get started with that. And everyone had a handheld game badge that they could play and take home.
Oh my gosh.
So that's what I did yesterday. We did a few more today.
Yeah.
And now I'm just wandering around, and now I'm here with you fine gentlemen.
Well, pleasure to have you, man. So this is kind of, I think you're the first Wisconsin-based guest that we've had on all day, because you are.
But this is Wisconsin.
I know.
So you're not talking to Wisconsin people? Aren't there enough of us around?
We try not to
Who is
associate.
here from Wisconsin? Come on, let's see a show of hands.
Right.
Yeah!
That's
right.
how you get
That's
the
right,
cheers.
the real dairy state. I don't care what California says. Go on.
Yes. So you reside in the Madison area, right? Verona?
Yes, I live in the tax hell of Madison.
And I see that sometimes, that maybe you're not the happiest with that situation.
It's a nice place to live.
Yeah.
It's just very expensive.
So...
But I live near Menards, which is very handy.
Yeah. It is, actually.
It's like 1 mile from my house.
Oh, man. You save big money. Save big money.
Save big money. You save big money when you shop Menards.
Nobody, come on.
All right. So let's start with a very good or a very apt Wisconsin topic. Cheese curds. I hear you're a bit of a aficionado.
Yes, I always like to describe cheese curds to people who aren't from the Midwest, because a lot of times they're very confused by it. They're like, what are cheese curds? And I'm like, well, it's a progenitor of cheese.
They are confusing.
Yeah, but they make cheese everywhere. Do people just not eat the cheese embryos that are cheese curds?
Apparently not, because
It's so weird to me.
we had to explain this to people last night, and also
Really?
had to explain that there are naked cheese curds, there are breaded cheese curds. You deep fry them, you just can't have them
Well, there's
raw.
multiple types of fried cheese curds. So what happens a lot is I'll have people say, oh, I went to Culver's in like Florida or Texas, and I was able to get some cheese curds. And I'm like, yes, but those are Cisco food service cheese curds, where they use a breading crumb instead of beer batter, which is completely different.
I'm a total beer batter man. We have
Yes.
any beer batter cheese curd fans in the audience tonight? What?
Oh,
Sir, security.
you better run far.
So I think why they do that with Cisco food service is because they have a thicker breading layer so that the cheese does not leak out into the grease and foul up your fry vat.
Yeah.
It's about 3 millimeters of breadcrumbs, whereas what you really want is a beer battered cheese curd, which is flour and beer.
How many millimeters?
I would say less than 1, because it should be leaking when you eat it. There should be these vestibules of cheese seeping out the sides. And we're probably not going to talk about video games at all.
Juicing and oozing of cheddar.
I mean, are there any cheese curd video games yet? Are there any time? Has Culver's made like a McKids style game?
I mean, I wish they would.
They should.
608 Brewing just made a Kirk Cousins cheese curd themed beer.
What?
It's called Kirk Curd. They're out of La Crosse, and I think it was in reference because I think they extended his contract in Minnesota dairy, and
That's bizarre.
and just it was.
What does it taste like? Like cheese?
I think it's.
Kirk
I'm
Cousins.
gonna guess it has nothing to do with cheese, but it was just a fun themed beer to make. And it's Kirk Cousins' face inside of a cheese curd shape.
Very interesting.
It makes total sense.
I had no idea.
That was just this week.
So this is breaking news. You learn something new every day. Ben, best cheese curd that you've had? Is there one that tops?
Yeah, Madison, Wisconsin is where I live. Northeast of Madison, Wisconsin is a town called Sun Prairie.
They have Highway 16. Woo.
They have a corn boil fest every year. Mm-hmm. It's like a county fair corn boil. Yeah. The greasy carny cheese curds at that place, they are the best. They're all greasy and slimy, and the cheese is leaking out the side, and they're delicious. And they're beer battered, of course.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah. I'm the state fair, the Wisconsin State Fair, also I think makes a pretty good cheese curd if you know where to go. The actual cheese curd.
They're beer battered, right?
Yes. Oh yeah. Yeah. I'm not a crumb guy, so at all.
Well, beer battered is the way to go.
You've heard it here. Have you ever hacked a cheese curd?
Hacked a cheese curd? I mean, I've made my own fried.
Have you made a
cheese
console out of pure cheese?
No.
That's the next step. It all leads to this.
Yeah, it's like how the moon is made out of cheese, right?
I had to ask the question because we asked the hard-hitting questions here. So, okay, we've established this. Sun Prairie makes the best cheese curd.
That's probably the best one that I can think of in recent memory.
Sure.
By recent memory, I mean 10 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
No.
Yeah, you got to get out more. You got to go back.
Yeah, I haven't been there in many years.
So, I guess you can't talk about cheese curd without talking about another Wisconsin staple, beer.
Of course, beer.
So, Ben, let's talk beer, because here the Dogcast is a podcast about video games and beer.
Yeah,
and video games.
This Hazy Hero IPA you gave me is very tasty.
You liking it?
Yeah.
He likes it.
It's just the right amount of hops. It's not too overbearing.
Okay.
I think sometimes they'll put too much hops into a beer to kind of cover up other deficiencies in the brewing process.
Sure.
But this is good. I like it. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Do you dabble in brewing your own beer, or have tried?
I've helped friends mash and do the other steps in brewing beer.
Okay.
And then come back 4 months later and drink it. But as far as myself, no. You'd think I would. Okay. I have this engineer uncle who always gave me this great advice. It was like, if you can buy it, you can't afford to build it. So I tend to look at it as a post-agrarian kind of thing where I will build things to get money, and then I'll use that money to buy beer, and other people can make the beer for me. #capitalism.
There you go.
It's a lot
You've
easier.
hacked the system.
Yeah, so I like cooking. Like I do like cheese curds and things like that.
Yeah.
But I've never tried brewing beer. I think I'd be too impatient with it.
It is a patience thing, yeah. Depending if it's ale or lager. Lager is going to take twice as long to ferment. So, yeah. Brewing is patience.
See, I don't even know that. All I know is if I drink it, I get drunk.
This is a fact, too. You're getting right to the point, though. It's a lot easier to go to the method of just drinking beer. It's a lot more simple.
Yeah.
Yes.
Do you have any favorite brands? Are there any microbreweries that you tend to frequent or partake in more than others?
Yeah. Okay. So lately, I'm sure that people just find this amazingly interesting. If I want to get effed up, I usually go for Lake Louie, which is I think it's in Arena, Wisconsin. Warp Speed, yes.
Scotch ale?
6.9% Scotch ale. That's really good. I may have brought some with me. I used to daily drive Spotted Cow, but actually lately I've been doing High Life of all things.
High Life,
the working man's day drinking beer.
Champagne.
The champagne of beers, the girl on the moon. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
I mean, we could talk about video games and electronics a little bit if you want.
No, I mean, I think you established you wanted nothing to do with that at all.
Well, I don't know if anyone who's listening maybe wants to hear something else. I don't know.
All right.
They might have expected else. I don't know.
Well, we can pivot.
But cheese curds is a good topic.
Absolutely, and this is the first time I think we ever talked about cheese curds on the podcast, let alone a live Dogcast from Midwest Gaming Classic.
But cheese curds are an important part of life.
I mean, I'm sure they've come up in conversations, but we never really got to.
So, if the best way to do it is you get the warm cheese curds that have never been refrigerated straight from the factory right to the gas station, and they sit there on the counter and they're room temperature. Those are the ones you buy.
You talking Quick Trip here?
Does Quick Trip put them right on the counter? Or is that more of like a local gas station thing? Like, I'm talking room temperature, not even refrigerated. That's because then they'll squeak.
Yeah, the squeakiness. Some people like the squeakiness. Yeah.
Why would you not like the squeakiness?
I don't know. Like, is that the tell that it is?
I think
a good
Tom's
cheese
in
curd?
he's in a department all by himself.
Yeah, there's just some noises I don't want my food to make.
The squeakiness is cool. That's how you know it's fresh.
You ever have a cheeseburger squeak? That's awesome.
No.
Actually, no, I don't think so.
You can't argue it. If you like it in cheese, what makes you not like it in beef?
Yeah. So Ben, you are also famously a console modder.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
I guess.
Do you have any upcoming projects
involving console modding?
Possibly console modding or something adjacent.
There are some repairs that people want me to do. Like I did, what did I do? I fixed that PlayStation Nintendo thing a couple years ago.
Oh, yes.
That people thought was so cool. I did that. And then I have other people that send me stuff like, do a Sharp 68000 or, what was that one thing, the Laserdisc game? Oh, what was that called? I can't remember.
Dragon's Lair?
No, not Dragon's Lair, the home one.
Laser Active?
Not Laser Active, before that, from the 1980s.
Oh.
It had like Thayer's Quest on it and a few other games.
Oh, okay.
It is off the tip of my tongue. I can't remember what it was called. Oh, the RCA, not RCA. It was called the Halcyon.
The hell? Okay.
Yeah. That was fun to fix because it was like, there's only 6 of these in existence. We'll send you one, Ben. I'm like, okay, I'll fix it.
Sure.
That kind of stuff's fun. So then other people will say, actually, there's someone that wants me to fix a Laser Active, a Sharp 68000, an FM Tom's Marty. And sometimes I don't always have the time to do it.
Yeah.
Like I stopped doing my full-time YouTube channel. Now I just do whatever I want, or I work less.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I'm still doing things. I do stuff with pinball machines. I do contract work. I do code for pinball. And it's like, okay, this is all well and good, but then I might not necessarily have time to here's a rare game console. Can you fix it? Like someone sent me an email. They're like, we've got, I don't think it's quite as old as Dactyl Nightmare, but like one of those VR
things.
The old
VRs? Yeah.
Yeah, and I look at it and I'm
have you ever played Dactyl Nightmare?
No, I haven't.
That looks like a nightmare.
Mall of America, right, back in the day?
Right, yeah. I've never been around one of those machines.
Yeah, I think Palmer Luckey did that when he was 1 year old. He built it.
That was the genesis. Yes.
I see it in the email. I'm like, okay, well, this is going to cost $1,000 to ship one way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
So, I like doing that stuff, but sometimes.
So you're strictly getting more into the repair.
Well,
doing more repair.
People are like, let's send this rare thing to Ben and he'll repair it. Ever since I did that PlayStation fix.
Yeah.
But at some
Terry
point,
Diebold was a friend of the show. May he rest in peace and beer.
Oh yeah, he didn't make it.
He didn't. He did not.
Didn't they sold that thing to the owner of Pets.com or something?
Yeah.
Was that the guy that bought it?
Yeah.
Remember when back in the first .com boom?
Oh sure.
Pets.com.
Yeah.
Has anybody ever been on Pets.com? I've been on cheesecurd.com.
This is probably
really?
No, I've not been on
cheesecurds.com.
I just lived that lifestyle. I mean,
yeah. I know you did a whole series of episodes on kind of phoenixing the Nintendo PlayStation. I know I watched a few of those.
I think most of the damage to that was done by Terry storing it in his attic for 3 years.
Probably.
Because the damage that was done to the capacitors on it was caused by heat, not by age.
Yeah.
They fail in a different way based on heat versus age. It wasn't quite old enough to have capacitors fail just via time.
Okay.
Usually that's about 30 years, and at the time it was about 25.
I want to say I saw a clip where...
So he cooked it to death.
He did. And it's sad. But you brought it back.
Yep.
And it was a joy to actually see in person. I mean, that lit the world on fire there for a few months. And I think I saw a clip, and I don't know if it was Nintendo PlayStation related, but you're able, and correct me if I'm wrong, maybe I was hallucinating, but you were able to smell if a capacitor is bad.
Oh yeah, they have a certain smell.
And
so when
I'm like, what?
When they smell via, when they fail, when they fail via heat, they smell like a garbage dump. They smell like trash.
Okay.
Like remember when they had the Atari cartridge auction from the landfill?
Oh, yes. Yeah,
I bought a couple of them, and then I opened them up, and I was surprised. I didn't expect it would smell like trash, but it did. And I've got them in a shadow box.
It was in the landfill. You wouldn't think.
Well, according to the legend, they covered it with a bunch of concrete, but then, of course, all the trash and the water would seep down into it and permeate it.
You got some like VCSs out of that, or
no? There was cartridges.
The cartridges. Okay.
I bought Asteroids and Star Raiders, and I actually was able to get Asteroids working again.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, but 30 years or whatever it was of chemicals and water and minerals actually did quite a bit of damage to the PCB.
Oh God, yeah.
I was actually surprised how badly it was damaged just by being buried under the ground for 30 years. I mean, I guess it kind of sounds obvious, but. But anyway, it smelled like garbage.
Yeah.
And if you have a capacitor, so capacitors, if enough time passes, they'll start to swell and expand. They'll like puff up. Mm-hmm. Now, the capacitors on the PlayStation, Nintendo combo system or whatever it was called, they were leaking this gross black gunk out of their base.
Okay.
Which is a different type of failure. And that gunk is what smelled like garbage.
Gotcha. What is that gunk?
I blame Nintendo for that.
Oh, it's probably electrolytes.
Okay. Yeah.
No, it's not Nintendo's fault. Terry found that thing in a box of dishes, and he stuck it in his attic for 3 years. And attics are super hot in the summer.
Yeah.
And it got baked, basically.
Oh, wow.
So it probably would have been in better condition had he not stored it in an attic for 3 years.
Mm-hmm. Damn it, Terry.
Stored in a nice, dark, damp basement.
Yeah. It would have been better. As long as there's no exposed steel, it's not going to rust.
Yeah. How long did it take you to bring that back to life? I know you were filming as you were doing it.
I think it took a couple episodes for us to figure it out.
Okay.
Yeah, but it was mostly, we didn't realize how many capacitors had been damaged by the heat.
Sure.
So I had to go through and like methodically replace them all. Well, not all of them, probably about a third.
Yeah.
But then it was working. It was never fully documented. People actually had written games to run an emulated version of it based off of how they thought it worked. Mm-hmm. But the system itself actually threw up a few things that people didn't expect, such as certain IRQs, interrupt requests, things from the CPU. So the last time I worked with it, they didn't have a game fully running on it, but they actually were able to get it to load off the disk.
Gotcha.
So the thing with that system, one of the reasons I think they never released it, I think it would have been a complete dog.
I remember, I think I was at a panel of yours. You said like the bus was it like.
Yeah, well, how in the weeds do you want me to get?
I mean, we can keep it light for for my grandma. She listens sometimes.
The grandma version.
I mean,
okay.
If that's not if you want to go in the weeds, we'll go deep.
Okay, well, I'd rather go in the weeds.
Okay.
All right, so if you have like... think about the Sega CD, where it's kind of a dog itself and kind of sucks. Sega CD has a full 16-bit data bus going from the Sega CD unit back to the Sega Genesis itself.
Yeah.
Whereas the Super Nintendo combo system, remember, it was supposed to be a CD-ROM add-on that would go underneath the Super Nintendo, right? So it had to connect to the Super Nintendo's expansion port, which was only 8-bit. Okay. Meaning all data transfers of 16-bit words would have to be done 2 bytes at a time, which would have been slow, much slower, well, twice as slow as the Sega CD, which itself was slow.
Pretty slow.
On top of that, the Sega's CPU sucks. It's blast processing is not some sort of urban myth.
What?
The Sega Genesis is much faster. Well,
but the blast processing.
It's way faster because you have the Super Nintendo, which runs at 3.58 megahertz maximum speed. There's certain RAM accesses that are half that speed, so you're talking like 1.8 megahertz RAM access, whereas the Sega Genesis is 7.62 megahertz. It has a 16-bit bus, whereas the Super Nintendo only has an 8-bit bus. So your 16-bit Super Nintendo, the cartridges have an 8-bit data bus on them, which means you have to do a double cycle load in order to get the same amount of data from the Sega Genesis. On top of that, one of the reasons the Super Nintendo cartridges were so expensive was because every Super Nintendo cartridge required additional hardware on the cartridge to do digital signal processing and other math that the CPU couldn't do.
Sure.
Like Super Mario Kart. Well, not even Star Fox, like Super Mario Kart. Yep. They were doing a bunch of like XY calculations using a DSP chip, which was on the cartridge itself. Mm-hmm. So the reason I bring that up is, here's why. So when you had the Super Nintendo Sega Super Nintendo PlayStation add-on, so the combination console I had was basically a Super Nintendo combined with a CD drive. That's really all it was.
Okay.
Most of the magic was in the cartridge itself. You still had to put in a physical cartridge, which had the BIOS.
Yes, that was the BIOS?
Yes, the BIOS was on the cartridge.
Okay.
Right, so the software was actually running off the cartridge itself, not the console.
Interesting. And
the cartridge had 8K of RAM with a battery backup, like most battery backup games had. Mm-hmm. Then it had 512K of RAM, which was used to load the game. So as a Super Nintendo, you might I've got this game. It's got 1 megabyte or 8 megabits of flash ROM. Well, not flash ROM, mask ROM. So it's a little ROM. So what the Super Nintendo cartridge system would do with the I keep saying Sega. With the PlayStation is like, okay, I'm going to load 512K of the game into RAM at a time. Then I'm going to access that as I would a ROM and run the game.
Okay. Oh.
Here's the big negative with that. There were no additional support chips inside of the cartridge that was required to make it run.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, there was no DSP. There was no Super A chip, which was a secondary CPU. Meaning, all of the support chips that help Super Nintendo games run faster wouldn't have been available. All you really are doing is loading data into a bog standard no mapper, so to speak.
Sure.
Super Nintendo cartridge, and then... So basically, it's a Super Nintendo with a ton of memory in the form of a CD-ROM. Even like audio playback probably would have been limited because you have like half the data bus over the expansion port.
All right. So we could have got basically like Final Fantasy VI for less than $100 would be like the only...
Well, yes, you'd have a cost advantage with the CD, but as far as... I think it would have been kind of a really slow dog otherwise.
Sure. Yeah.
Excuse me.
Yeah, no worries. No, that's fascinating. And yeah, who knows what the future would have held for that thing. Well,
I don't think it would have. It would have been really slow. It would have loaded slow. The games would have been limited without any enhancement chips, and maybe that's why they canceled it. I mean, we don't actually know why they canceled it, do we?
Do you think that? Yeah, no, not that I know of.
Wasn't it simply Nintendo didn't play well with others?
Well, that's still true today.
Yeah,
I think that's what it was.
The saga continues for sure. But
anyways,
it was a fun project. What to you? I suppose you get asked this all the time, but we're gonna like I said, my grandma wants to know. What was the most fun project that you've ever done?
Most fun project,
or maybe the most fun, interesting, the one that meant the most to you.
What sticks out the most?
Gosh. It might have been when I made my Bill Paxton pinball machine, like 12 years ago. I brought it here.
I wanted to ask you. I noticed that on the internet. Bill Paxton. So it was a full pinball machine.
It's based around many of his movies.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's got like True Lies, Near Dark. What else did he do? U-571, Aliens, Titanic. I can't remember. It's been so
Weird
long.
Science.
Yeah, Weird Science is in there.
Yeah.
And most of the soundtrack that I put on. Ever seen the movie Streets of Fire from 1984?
I have not. It is on my list though, for real.
Yeah, it's that was Walter Hill's follow-up to The Warriors.
Yes.
So he made like this, what do you call it, a rock and roll fable.
Yeah, I'm reading a book right now that is talking about that.
And it was this huge bomb when it came out. But it's like, so the movie starts out, and he's not credited on the soundtrack, but it's obviously Jim Steinman music.
Sure.
And it's like, dun, 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 you know, like youth angst music or whatever. So then you got like this 18-year-old Diane Lane, and she's like, I'm this singer, blah, blah, blah. Then William Dafoe shows up, and he's like, I'm going to kidnap you.
Does he ever play a good guy?
I don't think so.
Yeah. When's the Willem Dafoe pinball coming out?
What about in The Lighthouse? Was he a good guy in that one?
I don't think so.
He drank turpentine,
yeah, I guess
right?
probably not.
Boondock Saints. He was the cop, the good cop, right? Boondock Saints.
I'm something of a scientist myself.
Oh, classic. But
sweetheart.
So where is the Bill Paxton pinball right now?
Okay,
so a one of a kind here?
No, I brought it here the first couple of years. Up in Minneapolis, there's a place called SS Billiards.
Okay.
And they did a fundraiser, I don't know, 5 or 6 years ago, like a Kickstarter or whatever, to get some more money. And the guy's like, hey, would you sell me your unique Bill Paxton pinball machine so I could show it here at my arcade? And I'm like, okay, sure. And I basically just charged him what it cost to build.
Okay.
And then as far as I know, it's still up there. So Charlie at Spooky Pinball, now he's like, oh, Ben, I got to get that pinball machine back, and we can put it here, and it could be in the line of Spooky Pinballs. You know, like Iron Man's line of armors. But it's like, Charlie, you didn't build this. It's mine. I built that.
How long did it take you to put that together?
About 6 months.
Okay.
I did that. Yeah, I did that in 2009, and then I brought it.
Was that your first pinball project?
Yeah, it was. Yeah. I brought it here in 2010. Okay. And that's actually how I started meeting all these pinball people, because it's like, if you build, it turns out if you build a custom pinball machine from scratch, long before anyone else does, then all the pinball people will talk to you about it.
Sure. That's
when I started meeting them, and that's actually when I met Charlie and the Spooky Pinball people. And a couple of years later, then we did
the whole subculture of pinball people.
But then, a couple of years later, we kind of took some of that and we evolved it, and then Spooky Pinball happened.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you have any plans for any future pinball endeavors? Is there like a Dame Maggie Smith pinball?
No, there is a Twister pinball actually from Sega back in 1996.
Sorry, Tony.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm working on a game with Chicago Gaming Company right now.
Okay.
So that's, I don't know how many years away it is, but it's in the pipeline. And then I'm also still working with Spooky Pinball on a few things.
Okay.
So yeah, I still work in that field, just not as much as I used to.
Sure. Oh man, fantastic. So let's pivot away from games, consoles, Bill Paxton's. Football? Are you a Packer fan? Did you try to be? Are you?
It was very hard after this season. I mean, what was it, like 3 special teams foul-ups in one game? I mean, come on.
Maybe not their best. That
was pathetic.
Showing. Josh, you're the resident sports guy. What is it? Do you agree with Ben?
You can't be surprised with anything Packers playoffs right now, the last 3 years. And you can't be surprised next year either. But just what it is. It's fine. It's okay.
They're very good at snatching defeat from the jaws of victory.
Regular season champions.
All time.
That's so true. That's so
Sadly.
true.
We'll see. Whatever.
I was like, how do you have a field goal was blocked and 2 punts?
Special.
Wow.
Teams.
Terrible.
It's part of the game.
We're kind of reopening old wounds here. I'm sorry. I feel like I brought the.
It's fine.
It was only like 3 months ago.
It
not that old of a wound.
It didn't hurt me because I didn't think it was possible, but I knew it was very possible. So I kind of had expectations, as everyone should at this point.
Yeah.
Very good team. Any team can lose to anybody.
Aaron Rodgers is like, I can't retire until I go back to the Super Bowl.
Until I go back to my
43. I'm dead.
That's Tom Brady.
Do you guys think Aaron Rodgers and Shailene Woodley are actually getting back together?
Oh my gosh. No, he's
great.
seeing the owner of the Bucks' daughter. Oh, wow, yeah.
Hey, you know.
Wasn't he with Olivia Munn for a while?
Yeah.
I never understood that whole. She was at G4, right?
He was also with Goldie.
Yeah.
He was also with Goldie Hawn.
Yeah.
He was with Goldie Hawn?
Do you ever notice Brett Favre looks like Harrison Ford?
And Will Ferrell looks like Ben Roethlisberger.
They all start looking the same after a while, honestly. Wow, where has this gone? Ben, what is next for you as far as this weekend? Do you have any panels coming
more
up?
Beer.
Oh, we got
cheese
beer.
curd pinball, custom.
Why would anyone buy that?
Why wouldn't they?
Ben, this is Wisconsin.
People would get $100,000.
Are you kidding
me? You know what I would love to do? This is my dream. I would love to become a greasy cook again. Like have like a big flat iron and make like cheese curds and hash browns. That'd be great. I was thinking about doing that at the Midwest Rep Fest, the 3D Printer Festival in June.
Yeah.
I was like, could I just wheel up with put like a grill or a food truck on my car and on the hitch, and
they could use more food
make
here.
a bunch of like hot dogs and stuff. No, this is like Uniontown. I'd have to get a bunch of permits and stuff down here.
Oh my gosh. Well, hopefully
that's what I would love to do. I just make everyone hamburgers.
How about this?
Ben Heck's squeaky cheeseburgers.
Squeaky clean cheeseburgers.
Oh, That sounds really good. If we are fortunate enough to be asked to come back next year, and if the bonus stage is again in front of back home in front of the food court where we belong.
Oh, that's right. You were by Ian's Pizza last year. Yes.
Yeah. I saw you eating your pizza over there. Yeah.
Yeah, Ian's is good.
Would you consider opening up a food stand selling greasy squeaky cheese curds as we podcast?
But the thing is, I would want to have fried cheese curds, like beer battered fried cheese.
It has to be beer battered. This is established.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now,
I'm with you.
Making cheese curds is kind of a pain in the ass because your fingers get all sticky. That's why they hate it at the restaurant. But
it's a small price to pay. I mean,
what you do is you raise the price of the cheese curds for that inconvenience.
What?
I mean, how do you become a food vendor here? Is it probably like part of the system?
I think they just show up.
That's what I would really like to do.
2.
People think I want to like build stuff and solder. Like, no, I'd actually really like to make everyone pancakes. That's what I would really like to do.
Yo, food's really good. Everyone likes food, right? You guys like food?
Yeah.
Well, they're all alive, so I guess that'd be a yes.
Who likes brunch?
Shut up, Tom.
I'm sorry. Ben, I think we've taken up enough of your time. We are absolutely ecstatic that you dropped by. It was great to talk to you.
Yeah, no problem.
We tried to steer it away from your normal topics, and I hope it.
That's kind of well, not. I'm like a F- celebrity, but
not in our hearts.
Can I finish with one anecdote?
Absolutely.
So we were at a horror convention in August, and we were hanging out with Meat Loaf, and I was like, I just got to ask.
Like the Meat Loaf?
Yeah, Meat Loaf.
Okay.
Yeah, not the food.
Just taking up random.
I was looking at both perspectives,
and I was like,
both great.
So if you go on YouTube, there's this Hallmark channel does this series called The Haunting of Whoever.
Okay.
So they find these celebrities who had to deal with ghosts when they were young. And then they ask them about it, or they take them back to the place where they had a haunting. Like, this was my childhood home when there was a ghost under my bed, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. They did one called The Haunting of Meat Loaf. And it was like the studio in which they recorded Bat Out of Hell, the first one, apparently was haunted, or maybe it was drugs. So there's
I'm going to say option
you
B.
You can Google this. It's on YouTube, The Haunting of Meat Loaf. And so they take him back to the studio, and he's like trash talking the ghost. I made the number 3 album of all time in this studio. I'm not afraid of you. This is a real thing. It's real. The Haunting of Meat Loaf.
You've heard it here. Yeah, check it out. That's a Hallmark show?
Hallmark channel, yeah. So it's like my stepdad would have watched it before he died.
Oh my God, I will.
So we're sitting there, we're hanging out with him, and blah 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 blah. And then I'm like, "Hey, what's the deal with that Haunting of Meat Loaf show you did?" I asked that, of course, because the thing with celebrities, they don't want to talk about what they actually do.
You didn't even introduce yourself. You're just like,
no.
Deal?
This was like 30 minutes in. Yeah. But celebrities always want to talk about something else.
Right.
Like if you meet William Shatner, he wants to talk about horses. So anyway, Meat Loaf, his eyes get as wide as dinner plates. He's like, oh, that place was super haunted. And so this will take at least 10 minutes. Is that okay?
What's that?
The story.
Hey, go.
His
go for
eyes get as wide as dinner plates, and he's like, have you ever walked around New York City? You've probably walked past a ghost. That city is filled with ghosts. So and then I just thought I'd get an amusing anecdote, but no, he just does not stop talking about it for the rest of the time we were hanging out with him. So anyway, his assistant comes up, and she's like, Mr. Loaf, your wife...
Call me Meat.
Your wife... Your table is ready for dinner, sir. He's like, okay. And he keeps talking about ghosts. And like 10 minutes later, sir, your wife is seated at the table for dinner. Okay. And then we're like, oh, hey, Mr. Loaf. We don't want to keep it from your wife because we're thinking, oh, shit, he's going to keep talking about ghosts. He's going to be in the doghouse with his wife. We got to get him out of here before he's in trouble, right? We want Meat Loaf to get laid, right? So we do the thing. You probably see it here at the convention. You start walking and talking with the celebrity, right? Yeah. So we're walking and talking him back toward the restaurant escalator, and blah blah blah. And he's still talking about ghosts. And we get to the escalator, and we stop. We stand at the bottom of the escalator, and he's like going up the escalator, and he's still talking down to us like blah 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 ghosts. Right? Have a good evening, Mr. Meat Loaf. And then we're like, that was weird. But he was a nice guy.
I bet, yeah. And now he can haunt you.
I didn't even think about that.
But he won't do that. Anyways, on that note, Ben, fantastic having you. Thank you so much for coming out. Really appreciate it.
Yes.
And keep it locked at Hair the Dogcast. We're at Midwest Gaming Classic 2022, podcasting all weekend long with all my homies. So, all right, take care, everybody, and we'll see you next time. Ben Heck.
Thank you, Ben. Yeah.